y'all. Welcome back to the Who's Right podcast. And, the World Series is over. And, unfortunately, the Dodgers won. The Blue Jays had that World Series. I think they could have had two games. Well, they had chances in a couple games, and unfortunately, it didn't happen for the Blue Jays. But it also made me think that the Mets may have had a really good shot at this if they would have maybe gotten a chance to play in the playoffs this year, because the Dodgers weren't that impressive. Yamamoto was impressive, and deservedly so, got the MVP of the World Series. But overall, as a team, they weren't as impressive as they were last year when we played them. I think they were a much better team last year, and even though all their pitching was healthy this year. So but it's unfortunate. It's okay. Move on. We have to move on to the next year. So, what's up for the Mets in the next coming months, right? Well, first of all, this broadcast, we're going to talk about the Mets free agent, and if we're gonna take our time, because obviously things are gonna move slowly. Probably things aren't going to happen till the winter meetings in December, and so we're gonna take our time talking about a lot of things that are gonna go on for the Mets this offseason. But we wanted to first start off with the potential free agents that they got. We're in that 5-day window where they get a chance to exclusively negotiate with some of their guys. A lot of their guys are just going to be free agents. But the one I'm going to bring up first is Edwin Diaz. Seeing Hoffman blow that save and World Series yesterday made me think and believe that we need Edwin back, no matter what. I don't think, there's anything to not believe that we need him back. A lot of times, I've been in a couple spaces on Twitter and stuff like that, talking about that we can just get anybody to close games. And if you saw yesterday, or on Saturday, in case you see this on Monday, that's not the case. The case is that guys blow saves, and Edwin does blow saves as well, but not to the extent of these others closers, right? And Edwin, I believe, is the best closer in baseball, and I don't believe he would have blown that save, right? Yesterday, that pitch was almost right down the middle, and even though it was a slider, it was a hittable pitch, and Rojas took care of it. So I believe that we need to negotiate. I believe that Edwin wants to be here. So I'm not worried about a guy that doesn't want to be here, because I believe Edwin wants to be here. He wanted to be here the last time. There's nothing that kind of changed that for Edwin. He's had a good year. Fans love him, and he can handle New York, which is a big deal. Helsley came over, and he couldn't handle New York. So we also got to take that into consideration. Edwin's been here. He's a guy that's done it before here in New York. He's the best closer in baseball, and we have to take those things into consideration. Helsley came over, and I know they wanted to talk about tipping pitches and all this other stuff. I just think he couldn't handle New York. It's easy as that. I know he gets some dry spells in when he was with St. Louis, but I also think that he had a hard time handling New York. And so we have to do everything we got to do to get Edwin back. Edwin, all year was the bullpen. We were talking about Edwin and then who. And, in the trade deadline, we got a couple pieces, but, for example, the Helsley piece didn't work out. So I believe that Edwin has to come back no matter what. He's the tippity top on my wish list on the free agents from our own team, from the Mets, that I want back. It's one of those things that you want to have a little bit of security in the back of the bullpen, right at the end of the games, because as we saw in the World Series, it's something that may not happen, and so because we saw Hoffman blow a save, so we have to get Edwin back. There's no ifs, ands, buts about it. I know some other guy said, well, we can use that money elsewhere. We got to stop thinking like that. We can't worry about the money in certain cases. Obviously, there's certain cases where there's going to be a money concern, right? For example, I think that is a legitimate concern with Pete Alonso. But I don't think it's a legitimate concern with Edwin Diaz. We'll get to the Pete Alonso in a second. But with Edwin Diaz, we have to get him back. We have to have a guy that's going to close out ball games and not, sometimes he stresses us out. But even when he stresses us out, he still gets the job done. So we need to get him back. And I think I've exhausted that point. So I'm not going to continue talking about it. But I believe that I've exhausted that point, and you let me know what you think. Let me know how you feel about the whole Edwin situation. Do you want him back? Does it matter the cost? Does it matter the years with Edwin? I believe that a 4-year deal would be fine for a closer. We got a whole bunch of closers going into their 36, 37, 38 seasons. Chapman and for the Red Sox comes to mind. Kenley Jansen comes to mind. So a bunch of guys that are pitching. They're still pitching well into into their late 30s. So I'm really comfortable with giving him a 4-year deal. Re-up with the same amount yearly, and let's get it done. Let's get it done before free agency completely begins. So I know he wants to be here, and so let's get it done. There's nothing more I need to say. Just Stearns, get it done, because learn from the Hader situation. You need a guy that is going to close ball games, and there's nobody better than Edwin Diaz. Let's move on to the next set of free agents set to hit the market. Starling Marte. Starling Marte is a free agent. Honestly, as a veteran guy off the bench, 5th outfielder, I wouldn't mind seeing him back, to be honest with you. Keeping him as a guy that is going to lead the clubhouse with a lot of young guys still that may be coming up, like a Carson Bench and even Jet Williams that may be coming up. You want that veteran presence, and he's good friends with Soto, and if he comes back at the right price as a guy that's the 5th outfielder off the bench, and not asking for a lot of playing time, I think Starling Marte can be very valuable to this team. As a guy that will not only coach up the younger players, but also have keep Juan Soto on track, right? I think he helped this year with Juan Soto getting acclimated to the team. So having a guy like Starling Marte is not a bad option. I want to leave the door open for, like I said, the fifth guy, the guy off the bench, guy to hit lefties when you need a pinch hitter, a pinch runner. If he using sparingly, he can play the outfield. And so I think he'd be a valuable piece to keep as the fifth guy. So let me know what you think on that. I think he'd be a valuable piece. Obviously not at the money that he's getting or that he got. Right? He's no longer that player. But if you bring him back on the Winker deal, 1 year, $7 million, $8 million, whatever the Winker deal was. That's not a bad option for a guy like Marte. You want that veteran presence off the bench and in your clubhouse. So I would love to see Marte back in that role, but we'll see what happens. But I would definitely love to see Marte back in that role. Let's move on to the next guy. Obviously Frankie Montas and AJ Minter, got player options. Frankie Montas, he's got a player option that he's going to exercise, and we're never going to see him, right? Because he's injured and out for next year as well. So I'm not, it is what it is. We've exhausted the whole Frankie Montas talk. I'm not going to go back and rehash the whole thing with Frankie Montas. It was a bad decision by Stearns, and we got to eat it now, and that's fine. AJ Minter should be back, early next season. Lefty, we counted on him to do a lot. He did well while in the beginning of the season when he was healthy. So he's going to exercise that option just because he's coming off an injured season. So you got one lefty already in the bullpen. Cedric Mullins. Do I need to say anything? do I really need to say anything? Cedric Mullins is a guy that personally I did not want to see the Mets trade for. I would have rather them not trade for anything. Maybe bring somebody, from the minors up. But I didn't have any faith in Cedric Mullins, and he came to be what I expected him to be. Unfortunately, that's not why we lost games. One minor player like a Cedric Mullins isn't going to make or break our season, so I'm not going to put that on him. But he's not. He was the player I expected him to be. For me, it was Luis Robert or bust. Right? If Luis Robert wasn't available, then he shouldn't have made the trade. But he made the trade, and so we have to live with the Cedric Mullins experience. But I don't expect him to come back. I don't think he wants to come back, and I don't think Stearns wants him back. So I'm not worried about him. That's enough to talk about Cedric Mullins. We mentioned this guy already, Ryan Helsley. He's probably going to take a 1-year deal somewhere to try to close, maybe even back in St. Louis, and he's gonna try to build up his reputation again. He's a guy that came here, whatever the tipping pitches was, whatever. I believe he just couldn't handle New York. He wants to blame it on tipping pitches, but I think that he's going to take a 1-year deal somewhere. He's not going to be with the Mets next year. Might go wherever Jeremy Hefner goes. Him and Jeremy Hefner were worked out together in the offseason. Not worked out together. Hefner helped him in the offseason last year, and I could see him going wherever Hefner goes. Or even going back to St. Louis. So that's enough there on that talk. I'm not going to continue to talk about that because I think that's pretty clear on how we feel, and I think how it's going to play out. Next guy that's going to be a free agent is Jesse Winker. Obviously, he couldn't stay healthy this year, and we love the energy that he brought the previous year. But as far as him being a Met next year, I don't think that's all that's going to happen. At this point, I think the Jesse Winker experiment is over. Wish he would have stayed healthy and see what he could have done for us. I think he could have been valuable for us if he would have stayed healthy. But I don't think he's coming back. I don't think he's the guy that would be that veteran presence. We are very left-handed as a ball club. So I believe that some of the pieces off the bench are going to be right-handers like a Sterling Marte. Nothing against Jesse Winker. Appreciated his time here and loved his energy, but I just don't see David Stearns re-signing him. I could be wrong, but I don't see David Stearns re-signing him. The next guy here is Gregory Soto. That's an interesting one because I do like Gregory Soto for what he is. Not necessarily a back of the rotation guy, but middle of the rotation. Back of the bullpen guy, but a middle of the bullpen, middle relief guy. I could see wanting him back. I could see, because we don't know when Minter's coming back. And, Minter is a guy that can handle both righties and lefties. Raley as well is a guy that could handle both righties and lefties. Is it really a bad idea to have a third lefty in the bullpen? I don't know. That's an interesting one for me because both of those guys that I just previously mentioned, it can handle both righties. Gregory Soto not so much, but I think as a middle relief guy, I think he'd be valuable if he wants to come back here. I'd listen, and have that third lefty coming out of the bullpen. I wouldn't see a problem with that because of the other guys being able to handle both righties and lefties. So, that's something to consider. Now, not a lot of people are talking about Gregory Soto coming back, but I think if the price is right, as a middle relief guy, make a strong bullpen, would be a great option to have Gregory Soto in this bullpen. So, something to consider. I would like him back. Let me know what you think. Is a third lefty a bad thing in the bullpen? I don't know if I don't think so. In today's baseball, I don't see having a third lefty as a bad thing, especially because the three batter rule at this point. Most lefties are comfortable, or not comfortable, but they're used to going up against right-handers. So I don't fully trust them going up against righties, but as a middle relief guy, to shore up the bullpen and make it a strong bullpen, I want to see why not. I would love to see him back at the right price and in that bullpen. So let's not dismiss that one too quickly. But I would like to see him to come back. His contract last year was almost $6 million. If he comes back at that and wants to come back and be that middle relief guy, I would seriously consider Gregory Soto to come back to the Mets, and I would hope that David Stearns does seriously consider that. So let's see what happens. Let me know what you think, and let me know in the comments what you think. So would you like to see Gregory Soto back? Third, the other guy is Tyler Rogers. Again, I would like to see him back. Middle relief as well. Seventh, eighth inning guy. I would love to see him back because he's a contact guy. We expected him to do more than what he's expected to be. Part of that is because we were just on the downward spiral as the Mets went this year. But him as a middle relief guy and a guy that I believe most of the time got the job done. Obviously, he let a lot of soft contact drop, but that's part of his game. It's just for us this year, it just didn't work out. But I do believe that Tyler Rogers, especially with his rubber arm that he can pitch almost every day, I think is an option for us to really consider him as an option. And especially, when we gave up a lot for him, it wouldn't be a bad thing to re-sign him. And last year he got another one that almost got $6 million. So, not a bad option. We should consider that. So, if we already have, AJ Minter, Tyler Rogers, Gregory Soto, Edwin Diaz, we still need to get a setup man, but I think that's a strong start to a bullpen. Next guy up is Ryan Stanek. I don't know what to say. No Met fan wants to see Ryan Stanek back, especially because Drew Smith is coming back. Drew Smith and Ryan Stanek is almost the same player. Obviously Drew Smith, because he's younger, got a little bit more of a upside. May have more talent than Ryan Stanek at this point. So I don't see Ryan Stanek coming back. I think Drew Smith is going to take his place. Again, middle of the relief guy, and just mention another guy that's going to be in that bullpen. Griffin Canning. Stash him. As get him ready as a depth piece. I wouldn't mind seeing Griffin Canning back. That experiment actually worked, until he got hurt. The metrics were saying that it was going to come to an end soon, but we actually don't know. So I wouldn't mind seeing Griffin Canning back, and depending on how his rehab goes, we signed him to one of these 2-year deals where he spends half the year recovering from the injury, from his Achilles injury, and we see him in the second half of the season, and maybe out of the bullpen. Who knows? But I would consider bringing him back. So that's another option. But and then the other guy that we're gonna pick up the club option on is Brooks Raley. So that's kind of so far how the bullpen is rounding out. I know Lovelady re-signed, but that's a split contract, so that's I don't want to get too excited about that. I don't think he's a depth piece. He's not going to start. I don't believe he's going to start the year in the Mets bullpen. So I'm not worried about that signing. A lot of people go nuts because they saw that signing. It's a split contract, so don't even stress about that contract. He's going to start the year in the minors, unless we get some injuries like we did last year. But we got, if we bring Edwin Mack, we have Brooks Raley, AJ Minter. Hopefully we can get a Gregory Soto back. Tyler Rogers and Drew Smith. That's a good start to a bullpen, and then if we can get a good setup man a second closer, so to speak, I think would be great because I know we signed AJ Minter to be that guy, but coming off an injury, I don't think we can rely on him being that guy. So just a thought, the bullpen I think would be a decent bullpen. Would be depending on the setup guy that we get. If we bring some of these guys back, replace Helsley with a good setup guy, I think would pay off, and this bullpen would do the job that we expected this bullpen to do in the second half. So I think that those are my opinion on who should come back from our free agents. Obviously, we're going to finish with Pete Alonso in a second, but I want to recap. Love to see Gregory Soto back. I wouldn't mind seeing Marte as that fifth guy in the outfield, and a guy off the bench. Not necessarily to give him any kind of guarantees of playing time, but if he is a guy that's willing to be a guy off the bench, I would love to see him come back and be that veteran presence for us. Gregory Soto, love to see him back. Tyler Rogers, Griffin Canning as a depth piece. Not a guy that we rely on, because we're going to get some guys back. So not a guy we rely on, but still young guy that if we can get some value out of, I wouldn't mind seeing him back as a depth piece. And then Ryan Stanek, see you later. Ryan Helsley, see you later. And Cedric Mullins, see you later. Right? So those are the guys that want to see gone, and the other guys I want to see back. Let me know what you think about that potential bullpen. I know a lot of you guys are going to have bad feelings about what I said, just because you think Tyler Rogers didn't do a great job. I believe that he did. I believe more that the Mets were just on a downward spiral that nobody's going to stop. But I believe that Tyler Rogers can come back and be the guy that we traded for, because I think he did most of that work here, except for one or two cases, and I think he could do it for all year for us next year. And Gregory Soto, the third lefty out of the bullpen, as a middle relief guy, I would love to see that happen, because I think that would be a good option. So let me know what you think. Let me know in the comments what you think, if that's a good idea. What other guys that could be that second closer, setup man for us. Maybe a Raisel Iglesias can be that. I don't know what he wants to do. Maybe he wants to continue to close, but I know that he most likely is not going to go back to the Braves. Do we want another Braves pitcher coming here? So let me know what you think. What kind of setup man that you think is available that we should bring in, or maybe even trade for, because we'll talk about trades here in the future as well. But I wanted to finish the show with Pete Alonso. He's the last free agent that we hadn't talked about yet. What can I say? Pete Alonso is a guy, homegrown Met, has been able to do it here before, and I would love to see him back. But ultimately, his production can be replaced. I think it could be replaced with a guy like Bo Bichette. Bo Bichette, proved it yesterday, or Game 7, depending on when you're seeing this. Could be, I'll say Saturday. He proved it, and that he can be a guy that can replace Pete's production. Play second base. We get a guy to play first base on a defensive front, right? Alex Bregman is also another guy that can replace Pete's production. But, I don't think Alex Bregman is the guy that to come here. I think the guy to replace Pete is a guy like Bo Bichette. If he doesn't want to go back, or if the Blue Jays are unwilling to pay him, and we don't come to an agreement with Pete Alonso, I think that's the guy that we need to go after as the Pete production replacement. And if we sign, Bo Bichette is going to be 28, I believe. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe he's a 28-year-old, 29-year-old at most. And he's a guy, one, that's younger than Pete. We can put Bo Bichette at second base, and give us an opportunity to trade Jet Williams for a pitcher, for somebody else. And we replace the Pete production. Now, don't get me wrong, guys. I want Pete back. So this is not me saying that I don't want Pete. I want Pete back. If the first option we had is to sign Pete, I'm all for that option because I want Pete back. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, he's a homegrown Met. He's done it here before. He can handle New York. And, he's going to continue to hit home runs. So, his defense is to be questioned. Obviously we saw Guerrero play a great first base. Freddie Freeman play a great first base. And, we can never expect that from Pete Alonso. But if we replace Pete Alonso with a Bo Bichette, put Bo Bichette at second base, get a defensive first baseman, maybe even have Beatty switch over to first base, because I believe him being a lefty and he's already a good defensive player, I think he would acclimate well to first base. Let me know what you think. What do you think? If we do replace a guy like Pete Alonso, would Bo Bichette be the guy? What do you think? Let me know in your comments. Let me know what you're thinking. I think that's a legitimate option. Bregman's also a legitimate option, but less so just because of the amount of money that Bregman's going to want. I don't know if Bo Bichette's going to get the same amount of money. Maybe he is. And maybe if all the money is the same, I want Pete back. I'd rather have Pete back. He's a homegrown Met. He's a guy that I would like to see back. But if the money's not the same, the years. Well, actually, let me backtrack a little bit, because a part of the problem here is not the money. It's the years. And this is what I'm talking about of Bo Bichette. Bo Bichette's younger. Second baseman. Can replace that production. Give us time to either trade for another first baseman or, just put the production elsewhere, because Bo Bichette's that guy. So ultimately, the real issue here is the years. So if everybody's getting the same amount of money and the same amount of years, for me, I want to give that to Bo Bichette. Bo Bichette's the guy that's getting that from me. Nobody else, not Bregman, not Pete, Bo Bichette. So if it's like a 5-year, 6-year deal, it's Bo Bichette. 4-year deal, it's Pete Alonso. I'm willing to go 4 years with Pete Alonso. Let me know what you think. Let me know what you think in the comments. Would you give Pete the bag, and not worry about the years? Give him the amount of years that he wants. Give him everything that he wants. Is that what, you think that's the best way to go? Let me know how you feel. if there's a better option to replace Pete, or there is no option to replace Pete. Let me know what you think. In the replays, put in your comments. Before we get out of here, let's talk about hitting that subscribe button, like this video. Again, let us know how you're feeling. And obviously, guys, let's go Mets.